Hi everyone, my name is Cath. I'm the Spark Space Librarian here at Spartanburg County Public Libraries, and today I'm going to be teaching you about seed starting. So what seed starting is whenever you live somewhere where maybe it doesn't get warm until later on in the spring, so you can't plant your seeds directly into the ground because you don't have a long enough growing season, or maybe you have too short of a growing season, so you have to go ahead and start your seeds growing inside your home or small building on your property, wherever you start your seeds. And so today I'm going to be walking you through the steps to start your seeds with this, either supplies you already own, or if you were able to pick up a bag with the supplies that were in the seed starting kits. For those of you who don't have a kit, I'm just going to show you what was included in ours and just tell you about the stuff that we used. That way you can go ahead and purchase those things yourself. If you're just tuning in, you can go out after you watch this video and pick up those supplies. So the first thing that's in this bag is a list. This list just says veggies and flowers to start indoors in February. So these are ones that if you start now, they will be ready in early spring for you to transplant. So vegetables include broccoli, cabbage, celery, collards, kale, onions, hot and sweet peppers, spinach, and flowers you can go ahead and start indoors right now are marigolds and zinnias. You can come and pick this list up at your headquarters library. I have a list of them available, or here if you can read them. This just talks about when to transplant them, and I will talk about that as we go through this and what transplanting means. So there's that. There is a 6-cell little starting peat pots. You can pick these up anywhere that sells seed starting. They have them either peat pots like this or little plastic cups you can put them in, but I got these because they're easily biodegradable, and you can just cut these off, open up the bottoms, and plant them in the ground. There are 6 mini popsicle sticks. That is one for each cell. I found these on Amazon in a pack of like 300, so they're just small enough that they can fit down inside the cells, which is why I got them this small, or any size popsicle stick or any kind of little plant marker will work. You will want these because once you put these seeds in here and cover them with dirt, you will not be able to tell what is growing out of it until you start having plants growing, and even then some plants look really similar, like kale, collards, spinach kind of look a little bit similar until they get bigger. And then also I just have an 8-ounce deli cup that is full of Miracle-Gro seed starting mix. Any kind of seed starting mix will be fine to use. If you can't find that, you just want to have a light type of soil and not something really heavy and dense, because it'll be hard for your little seeds to sprout up if they're in a really dense soil like that. And then this is just a brown paper bag you can reuse for whatever. So there's all of this. That's in the bag. The other thing that you should have picked up if you were coming to pick up the bags is your packets of seeds. I have here at the headquarters library the seed library. A couple of branches have smaller versions, but the main bulk of it is here at the headquarters library, so you can stop by and pick up 5 packets of seeds per week per person. So you'll want to pick up some seeds off that list, or if you are feeling kind of adventurous and want to go off list and are you actually really familiar with what grows here and when to start stuff, you can come and pick anything you want out of that. So those are the things we'll need to start. Other things you may need, some kind of plastic tray to do this all over, or newspaper to put down underneath. You'll also want a watering can or some type of water vessel to hold water in, so you can moisten your dirt before it gets put into your little cells, but I'll go over that as well. But that's all you really need. Maybe gloves if you are not wanting to get super messy. I'm just going to make a little hole with a popsicle stick to put my seeds in, but if you want to be more precise and have like a little spoon or something, you can do that as well. And now I'm going to turn it over to a hands down view so you can watch me do all of that. So I'll be right back. Okay, so to start with, we're just going to move all this off to the side. I'm going to start off by just dampening up the soil. The reason I'm doing this is because once you put your seeds, your soil in your cells, and then your seeds under your soil, and then you cover it up with soil, a bunch of water like falling down onto it, I mean, kind of hard for little delicate seeds, can push them down deeper than they really need to be, and can just mess everything up a little bit. So just going to You don't want it to be soaking wet. You do want it to be damp. So I'm just going to pour a little water in here. Use one of my little popsicle sticks to kind of stir it around. I'm going to put down a sheet of plastic just to try and keep the mess contained. So when you squeeze it between your fingers, it should kind of clump together. This is basically so dry that whenever I squish it, it just kind of falls apart. So you'll just kind of want it to have a little bit of clumping. You don't want it to be soaking wet, but you don't want it to be bone dry either. You just want it to be kind of moist, like a damp sponge is what I've heard people kind of describe. So now that we have our damp soil, you can move on over to your cells. So you don't want to fill these all the way up to the very top. You want to leave about 1/2 inch of soil in them, and you don't want to pack the dirt down really tight. Like you want it to still be a little bit loose, but you don't want to have tons of pockets of air in the bottom or in the soil. Otherwise, if that happens, it will displace the next time it gets watered, and it can drop your seeds down pretty far. So you do want them to be, the dirt to be in there kind of firmly, but you don't want it to be so firm that you can't put your seeds into it easily. So. When you get them about this full, like so, you'll see that it's a little dark down here on the bottom, up here on the sides. That is just the moisture from the, right here, from the water. It's not a bad thing. You'll want it to be pretty moist. You're not going to water these very much. Once you get them planted, you're going to mist them or drizzle water on them like so a couple times, maybe 2 times a week, or a good water, give them a good watering, not so much that you drown them, once a week. I'll talk about that a little bit more. But so once you get to this part, now it's time to look into your seeds, decide which seeds you want to plant, where, how many of each seed you want to do. For this demonstration, just so y'all can see it easily, I'm going to do these So Easy peppers and So Easy cabbage. These are by Fairy Morse, and they were gracious enough to donate them to us. But just for contrast, so you can see what I'm doing, because they're pink, these are the ones I'm going to use. So I'm going to do this half peppers and then this half cabbages. So what you'll do is you will look onto the back. It will tell you planting depth, 1/2 inch. So that's how far down you want the seeds to be whenever you plant them. So that one's 1/2 inch. And then here for the peppers, it's only 1/4 inch. And to help you visualize that, I have marked out on a popsicle stick somewhere how deep, and or I guess not too deep that is, sorry. So this one right here is 1/4 inch. See, that's not, in the grand scheme of things, not very deep, so you just want to be careful with that. And then this second line is marked out at 1/2 inch. And this is something you can do on your own with one of your popsicle sticks if you'd like. I just found it an easy way than just kind of guessing, which is not always super great. So in order to do that, I would, push it down 1/2 inch, and then that's where I would make a little hole in here to plant my seeds. So, I don't know if you can see that really well, there's a little hole in there. I can stick my finger down in. And that's what I'm going to do, and that is for the cabbage. For this, I normally like to put 2 to 3 seeds down in the hole just in case one of them doesn't, or 2 of them even don't take. I'll have, you know, several. I can't say I didn't try if I put 3 in there, 2 or 3 in there. So I'm going to put 3 in there. Pick this up so y'all can see. 1, 2, 3. Little seeds down in the hole. And then I'm just going to take a pinch of that potting mix and put that on top and lightly press it down. You don't want to squish it down in there too much. Okay, then I'll do the same thing. This one, kind of wiggle it back and forth to make that indentation kind of stay down in there. Get my 3 seeds. Nope, that one didn't quite go down in the hole. Okay. We'll just do the same thing for this one. Put these extra seeds back. Can't really see them, but they're down in there. Alright, then gently press that. Okay, so that's all for my cabbages, and now we're going to move on to the peppers. This one doesn't have quite enough soil in it, so I'm going to fix that. Okay. So these are my pepper seeds. This is a hot pepper mix, so it could be any of these. It could be a couple of varieties in here, and so because of that, just know that you could have any kind of any of these kinds of peppers. Some jalapenos, some cherry bombs, a couple of some habaneros. You know, just a couple of different varieties in here. It says up to 5 different, you know, varieties, and then it tells you each kind. So just know that that could be any of those. It could be any of those. So planting depth, 1/4 of an inch. Okay. Do the same thing here. Pour a little handful of seeds. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing with this. I'm going to put 2 or 3 of these pepper seeds in the hole. Set those off to the side so I can do this. Okay, so this one is a 1/4 of an inch, so you're going to want to be even more careful with your measuring because a 1/4 of an inch isn't much. Okay, my pepper seeds here. Okay, do it down in there. Just lightly tap that into place. Same thing here. There's a little hole. Oop, that one didn't quite come in. Okay. Alright, and the last one. Add a little bit more soil to this. Okay. Little seeds. Okay, so there are all of my seeds in their little tray. The next thing you're going to want to do is to make your little marker. Preferably do this beforehand so as you're putting them in you'll already know what goes where. Alright, so this is the pepper. Just gently push that in the corner. This is the cabbage. Put that in the corner. Obviously you'll do one for, if you're doing multiple different cells, if you're doing broccoli, cabbage, pepper sweet, pepper hot, onion, kale, you want to do one for each one, but since I'm just doing them in 2 rows, I'm going to do it like that. And so that's that. You'll see now that it has absorbed some more of the water, so at this point, you're basically done with everything. You can look on the back of your packets and it will say days to germinate, 10 to 12. So that's how long it's going to take to start germination, which is when it starts to grow. So you should see plants starting to form, little leaves, little sprouts within 10 to 12 days. So, and that can be kind of frustrating because you may or may not, it may take 10 to 12 days for something to grow, but it can also mean 10 to 12 days that something doesn't grow, so just, you have to be patient. And if something doesn't grow, then you now have seed packets where you can start again and try it again. So just, patience is a virtue, and it definitely has to be patient when it comes to starting seeds indoors. Some other tips and tricks you can do that I didn't provide you supplies with, but if you have them, they're pretty common household items, is once you get to this point, you'll want to put them in a little tray or something where if you do need to add more water, you can water it on the bottom like this. And then those cells will just soak the water up through the bottom, so you're not dumping tons of water over top of your little seeds or your little sprouts that are maybe forming underneath the surface and you can't quite see them yet, but the water will just be pulled up from the bottom. As you can see, it's getting darker down here. It's going to just pull that moisture up. So that's a way to avoid overwatering them. Also, another thing you can do once you water them really well to help trap that moisture in where all of this is, you can cover up your cells with plastic wrap. This is just a Ziploc bag, but you can put it either inside a Ziploc bag and seal it like that, or you can put little plastic wrap over top. And not only is that going to help seal in the moisture, it's also going to hold in the heat, which is a big part of growing seeds, or growing plants from seeds, is that it needs that warmth to let the seeds know it's time to start waking up, it's time to start growing. You'll want to keep these between around 65 to 70, 75. You don't want them to get much hotter than really that, because that's what zone we're in, is zone 7, and so that's like whenever it knows, hey, the seeds are warming, the soil's warming up, it's time for us to start germinating. So from the time it starts germinating, starts growing, it's going to be 70 to 80 days until you can harvest your peppers, and for the cabbage it's going to be 90 to 100 days before you can harvest those heads. Okay, and another thing that I forgot to mention was sunlight. So you're going to want to put these little guys somewhere that has about 4 to 6 hours, maybe 6 to 8 hours of sunlight a day, where it's getting direct sunlight. So not in a north-facing window, even though it seems like that's a lot of sunlight. Just somewhere that gets the most sunlight in your house is really what you're going to need. And that is mostly just to keep it warm. And once it starts germinating, you start getting leaves, you're really going to want to make sure that it has a lot of sunlight. But for now, the biggest thing is just to keep it warm, to simulate the ground warming up and letting the seeds know that it's time to spring up and start growing. So just try and find the sunniest, warmest spot in your house to try and keep them warm and happy. So that's something else to keep in mind. Another thing to keep in mind is if these do start sprouting and they do start really growing and getting big, you're going to have to move them into another container. They can't stay in there. They will get root bound, and they can get leggy and die. So you'll want to move them into like a medium-sized container. If for whatever reason they just really start shooting up, you'll want to put them into another container, which can be tin cans. It can be anything kind of, I don't know, a cup like a little cup like this. anything you can really just move them up to the next size, and you'll just want to be really careful when you do that because you can damage the roots. But we have tons of books on that kind of propagating and stuff like that at the library if you need some more resources, as well as there are many resources in Spartanburg, master gardeners and people who can answer those kinds of questions that are a little bit beyond my knowledge here. Also, another thing you're going to want to do is pay attention to the transplanting times, or this list. When to transplant. Transplant is whenever you're going to plant them outside in the ground. Each of these has a different time whenever they're going to be ready to transplant, so just depending on what seeds you pick, just want to keep that in mind as well. So that's all I really have for you today. I am going to be doing this program again in March for those of you who did not get seed kits. This time around, we'll have more seed kits available for the next time around. Also, it'll be a different variety of vegetables and flowers starting in March, things like tomatoes and other carrots, other kinds of things that you can go ahead and start seeding in the ground or start growing indoors. So thank you so much for joining me in our messy little seed growing. If you have any pictures of your family doing this, or any pictures of your seeds once they start growing, please feel free to tag us on Instagram or Facebook. We would love to see how our community is able to grow some food from our amazing seed library. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next time. Bye.